Hey guys, what's up? It's Seriotendon here today, and I'm actually going to be reviving my channel. I'm wanting to start off by doing some Kemono Friend deck profiles for Weiss. That's kind of what I'm wanting to do, is focus more on Weiss Schwarz. So I've been playing a lot of Kemono Friends recently, since it came out. It's going to be the set that it's going to be my set of choice, I believe, for the foreseeable future. And a lot of people seem to be struggling on how to build it. Now, this isn't the most meta build. I'm going to go over that in a following video about what I think the best build is, or at least the cards to include in the best build, and like some of the traps that I think other people are falling into as far as a good build. But this build, as long as you're not in the mirror match, is quite strong. I'll go over the cards real quick, and then I'll go into why it is good. So you're playing 3 Tsuchinoko. On play, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, so you get information on like what you want to swing with first. Do you have 2 guaranteed damage or not? And it also has an effect when a climax is played. You can bounce it back, look at top 2 cards of deck, add 1 to hand, and then pitch a card from your hand. So it lets you dig for climaxes without clock drawing, and it also lets you dig for key cards when you need them. This is just a drop searcher, and it gains 1,000 power every time something comes into play. This lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, so you get to know, like, do you want to, brainstorm? What do you want to do? Not exactly the best tech, but it is what it is. This one is it's a Riki for Grave on death, so when it dies, pay 1, clock yourself, get a level 1 out. It's the only card that lets you get from the grave in this deck, really, and that's really important because you need to get this dolphin. This dolphin is your entire game plan. Just 4Ks. It's to fix for blue. Runner would be better, but don't need it. Another drop searcher, but this one's in color for blue. I only own 2, so that's why I'm playing 2. Now at level 1, this is like a slightly modified deck that I saw on Facebook. But this beast, this Lucky over here, when he comes into play, you can pitch a card from your hand, and then both players refresh. So, like, if you look at top of their deck with Tsuchinoko and they have 2 climaxes on top, it might be beneficial for you to force them to refresh, and that way you might be able to get some damage in. Or if you're completely out of climaxes, like really early, and you don't have a way to dig through the rest of your deck, using Lucky to get compressed again is really nice. 4 of this tap self brainstorm. It's about the only thing that does is relevant. It always gives 500 power. I mean, there's like 3 brainstorms in all of Kemono, so you got to take what you got. 4 of this dolphin. It's fucking broken. Comes into play, gains 500 for everything, and then you can reveal it from your hand at the beginning of your encore step and bounce it back. So if you have 2 to 3 of these, you're never leaving your opponent cards to reverse, and you're just constantly getting attacks for 1 or 2 in, just non-stop. Very good card. Probably shouldn't exist. Forces your opponent to overswing. I love it. Level 2, you have 2 alpacas. It's a level support, and then it also has, you can tap it to put a friend from your waiting room into your stock. So the second you play, you immediately get your stock back. And then if you play it early with this, it suddenly becomes a stock charge card, and you can get easily like 20 stock with this card. Then you have your level 3 lineup. You have Shoebill. It's not the best. It can't be moved. You get to look at top 6, pitch 3, put the other 3 back on top in any order, and then it lets you swap climaxes. I guess that's pretty good if you're looking for the Toki climax and you got this, the standby. The standby is really bad at 3. It's really good at all the other levels, though. It's actually kind of subpar at 2, also. 3 Tokis. This is why I don't think this is an optimal build. It has on attack burn 1, so you don't get to play the best card in Kemono. But Toki's my favorite character. And then they also, you get to select a level 1 or lower, and it can't stand. That's not really been relevant to me, at least. It even has hand encore, so you can keep dishing out those burn 1s. Lion, which on play you get to salvage a card, and then also if it comes out with the standby trigger, you can pay 2, pitch 2 to restand. Now, what's really bad about this is it doesn't work on the first attack, because if the standby happens and you replace your card, you don't get to attack with it, right? So you have to use this on the second or third attack, which is why the owl is pretty useful, because if you look at the top 2 and you're like, oh man, I want to put the standby on the second card, so that way I attack first, and then on my second attack I get the lion out to replace the card that just attacked. But that's way too inconsistent to even try to do. And then for Moose, this Moose I thought would be overrated, but since it has the condition of only needing 4 other cards to get the minus level, this is just an amazing healer. This is definitely a card that you see in every meta deck, I think, is the Moose. It makes it where none of your cards can side attack, but you know it has heal, and you just get to plop it down. It's great. And you don't care about side attacking in this, because you just crash Dolphin and then bounce him back. For Japari Buns, it's just a way for you to like dig through your deck and try to get the Dolphin. And it's costless. It's pretty good. And then, of course, you have your 4 gates and 4 standby. Now, some cool things about this deck is Tsuchinoko. Like, that's like one of the main things I changed up from the list that I found. So if you play this standby, right, because the alpaca is good and you only have 2. So you don't want to be pitching the alpaca most of the time, because you don't have a way to really recur from the grave. Especially level 2s, you actually don't have a way to recur them from the grave, other than just waiting until next refresh and then playing a drop search or like sacking a brainstorm. So if you hold an alpaca in your hand and then you draw into the standby, what you can do is you can put the Tsuchinoko down in your back row, look at the top 2 cards of their deck, play the standby. Before using the standby effect, you bounce the Tsuchinoko back to your hand, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, get maybe another climax, maybe a dolphin, maybe something else useful, and then you pitch the alpaca. So then that way you can get the alpaca down at level 1 consistently, or at least level 2, without, you know, having to pitch it proactively. And it's the same thing with, like, if you're doing it at level, if you, like, open with a Tsuchinoko and, like, a Kaban Brainstorm or something else that you just, like, want to push down on the board early, you can do the same thing. Also works with, like, you know, your gates and whatnot. And then it's also like it's just a free like 2 card mill extra on your climaxes. But you do want to aggressively be going for this dolphin right here, because just bouncing it back to your hand nonstop is really the main thing that like Kemono friends can do that's unique. It forces your opponent to overswing, which I'm having like mixed results with, right? Like if you refresh 8, you can consistently you're probably gonna eat 2 levels of damage before you're compressed enough, because you need to use this alpaca a couple turns in order to like start getting compressed. But like once you get like 2 dolphins in your hand, 2 to 3 dolphins, and if you have an alpaca out, after like 3 turns you've generated like so much stock, and it's absolutely absurd. I think the biggest weakness of this deck, though, is just like the inability to go through itself. Like you're playing the 4 of this and the 4 of this, but it doesn't have like the Azusas where you can like just get through 4 cards for free. So it kind of struggles in that regard. Like sometimes you're just out early, and then also just sometimes because of the nature of it, like you are giving them an extra damage, right? And while some of the people I've been playing against have been like dropping 2 souls on me and swinging for 3, and then like triggering like really bad like triggers, like +2 soul on their triggers, so they're swinging for like 5. If you're playing against someone who really is trying to counter this, they're just gonna field a bunch of 1 souls and just like ping you for 2. You'll probably die that way. And because you don't have the Kaban, there's a lot of decks that have like on reverse like burn ones. So you don't want to drop the moose down against those, so you want to give them the ability to just like crash into your dolphin, or you want to just like play your dolphins and just keep bouncing them back or crashing into their board. So that's kind of rough. And then you do auto lose to Joker, like if you play against Persona. Um, this build, that's what I think the biggest problem is if you play this build against someone who's playing like Persona, not only does your opponent get to free farm stock against this, because for the most part, unless your Dolphin is just like ungodly strong against them, they're getting to free farm as much as you, but you're hoping with the Alpaca and the fact that you don't have a board that they're forced to overswing. So Joker, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw someone drop like 2 Jokers on you and burn you like 6 times and you just die if you're playing this deck. Um, that's really it for this deck profile. I'm about to make another video though on what I think the meta cards are for Kemono Friends and what I think some of the pitfalls that people are falling into with deck building.